Hey, how are you, man?
Hey, my dog, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, man. Good. How are you?
Well, I'm going okay, I guess, man. We're almost out the other side of the weirdness, and we're into some new weirdness now. So that's as terrible as it is, it's almost refreshing.
Yeah, from weirdness to slightly more weirdness.
From from blank to blank with barefoot dreams.
The weirdness of change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does look like it's opening up. But hey, I just want to say first off, thanks so much for coming on, man. As I said to you before, I've been really excited to have you on. Because you write songs, and one thing I've always loved about your songwriting is that you cover everything from like, and it's hard to do. Like often, like in fact, I think every guest I've had on mostly does fictional stuff or really personal stuff. I find with your stuff that you cover both so well, and it's ridiculous. Like musicians shouldn't be able to write personal and fictional as well as you do. So I've been keen to hit you up about it and learn a bit more about how you do it and how it comes to you. Um, but
All
yeah,
right, man.
how's your songwriting been over the whole COVID period? Have you been? I know you've obviously been productive recording. How's your writing been?
Look, the writing comes in waves, I guess. Um, and Like you said, I've been pretty busy chipping away at some recording projects, and I'm recording a new Sunset Junkies album and producing Ellie Jane's new album, and
Mm.
working with an artist, Billy Page. Joined her band and recording an album with her, and Jack Swan and Grace Spinks, and anyway, I've got a whole bunch of shit in the works on the recording front. So it's when I'm sort of busy in that respect, I guess I just don't have enough or as much time for the
Mm.
creative process. Um, it's funny you say, actually, because I felt that was lacking
Mm.
lately, and I've actually decided to write some more poetry,
Oh, nice.
which quite often can turn into lyrics, can turn into songs, or it can just be poetry,
Mm.
or you just throw it in the bin. I mean, it's all cathartic stuff. So I've been writing a poem a day since the start of winter.
Oh, amazing. What
So
with the poetry is it like like what sort of poetry is it? Like what sort of vibe is it?
my my rule is that there are no rules, and so basically I just try to allocate myself maybe 15 or 20 minutes a day, and I just sit down with my pen and paper and see what comes out. And it can be quite stream of consciousness sometimes, or sometimes it forms itself into verses and rhyming patterns and whatnot. But it's it's the raw material that songs are created from.
Mm.
If you don't have anything to say, you should shut the fuck up. So you know, the first thing is figuring out what you have to say, and putting that down. Um, I know a lot of people have different writing styles, and that's totally fine. There's no rules. But for me, I decided a long time ago that unless I had a message to get across, I'd be better off not, you know,
Mm.
not. So yeah, it starts with words a lot of the time because I need something to say.
And with the messages, like when you say messages, where does that like stem from? Is it mainly like a message of like is it like a really like a personal thing, the message for you, or can it vary?
Well, I noticed you mentioned earlier, man, that you know how I sometimes write quite personally, but sometimes from a fictional standpoint as well. And um, you know, I read a lot, and what I try to do a lot of the time is read some fiction and read some nonfiction at the same time. So I've always got two books on the boil, and you know, truth is stranger than fiction a lot of the
Mm.
time anyway. So it's whatever message is coming through, sometimes I don't know, look, I guess I try not to question it too much
Mm.
where it comes from, because I know it's come from something I've read or experienced or thought about or something, whether it's fiction or truth, it's all been filtered through my mind. So that's
Mm.
how it comes out, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, you know, a lot of the time, actually, the truth and fiction thing is blurred. You know, in the
Mm.
one song, it'll be half bullshit and half truth. So it's
Yeah, it's funny you mention that. It's something that I've definitely found that, like, whenever I pull a real life experience into a song, I almost feel obligated that I need to change the story a little bit.
mm,
Um, I suppose, especially if it's a story of something I've seen that someone else has gone through. And I get the inspiration for a song and I'm writing it. Often I'll take it on its own path. So to keep it the inspiration sincere, but to keep the story, I suppose, a little bit separate.
mm,
Um, yeah,
mm,
I've always sort of done that, even with my own, like whenever I've written a really personal song, which is not
mm,
often. I mean, when I say not often, I mean like it's not literally
yeah,
in the lyrics. But yeah, I always try to change it a little bit. And I think for me, like even when I'm writing about something I've gone through, I like to I like to have that gap between something that's personal and truthful to me. I want to have that private story to myself a lot of the time. Like I want to share it, but in the right way. Because sometimes
mm,
you need an outlet, but you don't necessarily want to give the full story to the world in a song.
yeah,
Sometimes it's nice to have that separation.
yeah. Look, for me, it's like whatever is required for the catharsis.
Mm,
That's what I'll put forward, and sometimes that's absolutely everything.
mm, yeah.
You know, but sometimes it's keeping a few cards up your sleeve as well, and that's okay. Um, an album of mine, Revelations, a couple of albums ago. Um, there's some very, very personal stuff on that album, um, but I've thrown a lot of allegory in there and a lot of uh, biblical reference even. And I'm an atheist, but I enjoy reading the Bible because it's rich language and it's
Mm,
interesting
it's a
imagery, and
great story.
yeah, it is. It's a story of stories. And but so it's I enjoy blurring that line. It's like writing a song. Yeah, I need to feel that I need to write a song
Mm,
for a song to happen. I can sit down and write a song for the craft of it, and I do sometimes. I co-write with people. I have a set time. Let's get together at 2 o'clock and write a song.
mm,
That's a function that I can engage, but I think my best stuff comes when it just forces its way out of me. And when that happens, yeah, it's like you have to be careful how much you give away, or you have to think about how much you want to give away.
mm,
And the more you learn about words and music, the more utensils you have at your disposal to help you get your point across in any way you want. You can hide it, you can disguise it, or you can just serve it up to everyone on a platter. There's no rules, man.
mm.
No rules at all.
Yeah. No, that's something I love the freedom of just being able to write what you want. And it's funny, like I think especially like I don't know how you feel about this, but sometimes when you're writing a song and you might write like controversial lyrics, being about whatever, like I'll give you an example, like writing a murder ballad.
Mm,
Murder ballads for the longest time were just expected, but I noticed, and I remember reading something that Nick Kay was saying about it, and how there was a lot of people getting up and anti about murder ballads, thinking, oh, we shouldn't be doing that, and we shouldn't be writing that, or why are you writing
right.
about murder,
Yeah. Like it's
cold-blooded,
a violent
vicious
video game.
murder, or a story that's full of greed, and um, And it's funny, like I've always looked at it like, whatever. If I'm writing a song of fiction, why is it different to a book? Why is it different to a movie? It's
It's
the
not.
same. It's exactly the same. People enjoy watching a cop and robber movie, but when someone's singing it, well, that's a bit different. I think it's because music is such a personal thing.
Mm.
But
Or it's assumed that way anyway because
yeah,
someone is singing it to you. That you can put a face to the voice, and you assume that this person is spilling their guts.
yeah,
And yeah, of course, like I said, everything's filtered through the personal psyche and whatnot. But inspiration comes from every corner of the world.
yeah. I just
And
imagine if Nick Cave released his Murder Ballads album in 2020. Could you just imagine the amount of controversy that would surround that?
yeah, it'd either be that or no one would give a shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You'd hope no one would give a shit, but
Yeah, I mean,
I
as
don't
in,
know.
like, it wouldn't even register in today's world. I mean,
Mm,
that's a sad thought too, I guess. But uh, yeah, look, man, I think. What do I think? I think again, and I mean, a greater songwriter than me, Sabrina Laurie, uh, wrote an amazing song called "No Rules," and that's one of my favorite songs ever written. And I just keep coming back to that phrase time and time again in my life. I mean, of course, she didn't teach me that phrase, but when I heard that song, "No Rules," it very much struck a chord with me. And I think in art, there has to be no rules.
yeah, definitely.
Uh, it's like in comedy, there sort of has to be no rules. It's like either everything's on the table or nothing's on the table.
Mm, yeah,
That's
definitely.
you. So as far as controversy is concerned, well, certain things are going to be controversial to certain people, but
Mm,
there's no definitive controversial topics that are just taboo in my mind anyway. I mean,
yeah,
in art, that's the place to explore that shit.
yeah.
You know,
And
you
if it's
don't
done
jump.
right as well, if it's done right, then even better. Um,
Mm,
Yeah, well, I think I think there is a fine line you walk if you're going down a darker path or a more taboo path. But I mean, unless if you're writing something just for the sake of I want it to sound really angry and vicious and to piss people off for no other reason. Well, I think as a listener, you're gonna see that anyways, and that song's probably not gonna get any love if it's not
mm.
done with the right intention.
Well,
You
look,
know.
a lot of heavy music, man, is made with uh, it's meant to aggregate, it's meant to aggravate, it's meant to agitate.
Mm. Yeah.
I think Woody Guthrie said that something along the lines of it's a folk singer's job to make uh, what is it? Rich people uncomfortable, uncomfortable. What? I don't know. Fuck.
He
No,
said
I can't.
something.
I
Woody
can't. I
said
can't quote.
something.
I can't quote things I don't know. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that putting people's noses out of joint,
Mm.
I think it's not the exclusive domain of art and music, but it's something very important that art and music can do. It can shake people up. It can get them out of their comfort zones. And if that's your sole purpose, well, that's valid too. Because people need to be shaken up right
Mm.
now, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of songs in general, that's the best segue I've got. But yeah, obviously, part of tonight's playing some songs. What was the first song that you decided to play tonight?
Well, I didn't really decide. I haven't decided yet. I think, my man, I'm going to sing a Bob Dylan song.
Oh, excellent. I was very close to singing a Bob Dylan song tonight. I was extremely close, actually.
Give me a second here to organize my situation. 1 second. 1 second, please, sir.
That's all good.
All right. I'm going to sing. No, I'm going to sing. All right. I'm going to sing a Bob Dylan song called Shooting Star.
Excellent.
So Dylan was working with a dude called Daniel Lanois, who's a producer, worked with U2 and whatnot. And they sort of bumped heads in a lot of ways. This is all laid out much more eloquently in Dylan's chronicles, if you want to read them. But the story is they were sort of bumping heads, and Dylan had some great words and some great songs, but Danny was wondering if he could just write something magical, something like Gates of Eden, or, you know, It's All Right, Ma, or Tambourine Man, or, you know, basically anything up, Bringing It All Back Home, or Highway 61, you know. And Bob was just like, man, I'm in my 50s now. Like, I don't even know that kid who wrote that stuff, and I don't even know if he knew what was happening when it happened. But he jumped on his motorbike, and he went for a ride, and he looked up at the stars, and he wrote this song, which is, I think it's a gorgeous song. He took it back to Danny, and he said, look, this is the best I've got. Danny still wasn't happy, but I think this is one of Dylan's most beautiful, heart-wrenching songs. It's about lost love and all that good stuff. Shooting Star. I seen you shooting star tonight, and I thought of you. You're trying to break into another world I never knew. Sometimes I kind of wonder if you ever made it through. Seen you shooting star tonight, and I thought of you. I seen you shooting star tonight, and I thought of me. If I stayed the same, if I ever became what you wanted me to be, did I miss the mark, overstep the line that only you could see? I seen a shooting star tonight, and I thought of me. Listen to the engine, listen to the bells. It's the last fire truck from hell goes rolling by, and all good people are praying. It's the last temptation, the last account. It's time you might hear the Sermon on the Mount. Fast radio's playing. I seen the shooting star tonight slip away. Tomorrow will be another day. I guess it's too late for me to say to you the things you needed to hear me say. I see you shooting star tonight slip away.
What a tune.
Yeah, I wish I wrote it.
I was playing a Dylan song last night, and Maddie's never really been into Bobby D. And I played the song, and she was like, "Wow, that was incredible. Did you write that?" And I was like, "I wish."
What song was it?
Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll.
Ah, yeah, potent.
Yeah. No, I was, and that's the thing about Dylan. His writing is just so powerful. When he can do something like as serious as that song, and then do a song like Shooting Star, which is just beautiful. It's hard to do. I mean, that's why he's the best.
Yeah, the best. Well, all art really is sort of just a expression of a human condition, you know.
Yeah, definitely, man.
And I think the more you understand the human condition, the better you are at expressing it, obviously. And something about that man, I don't know what the fuck happened to him, but he's been very wise for a very long time, you know, and he seems that he knows things. He's very in tune with what it is to be human on many levels, I think.
I think that's what makes him, in my opinion, the best of all time. Like how a man can write for what's it been? God, when his first album was 1960, wasn't it?
His first album was 61.
61, yeah. So that's
It was all cover songs except the song for Woody.
Yeah, which is
so imagine the balls of John Hammond, right? Finding this little freakazoid on the streets in Greenwich Village who was singing cover songs with a horrible voice, and signs him up to a record deal without even hearing one of his original songs. You know, like who would have thought that this kid would have been the greatest songwriter who ever lived?
John Hammond would take lots of credit for that.
Right? He fucking would, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but no, he's powerful. And like the reason I was singing Hattie Carroll last night was I had I was obviously was listening to Dylan and that song came on, and man, it's like, especially in the world we're in right now, it's insane just how nothing is really. You hear that song and you think, wow, it sounds like such an awful time. And then you look at the reality that we're living in right now, and you're just like, fuck me. We've known for so long, we've seen it. What the fuck is going on? And that was like, especially like throughout this period, like I've, especially like, you know, being white, we can only understand so far, you know, what people go through, and
we can guess.
We can guess. We're just, in the end, that's all we can do. But I think we can empathize, and that's sort of the important thing, I suppose, with this period. You know, it's all about, you know, taking side of the right people and supporting them and what they're saying. Listen and learn as best you can. That's the only way the world goes forward, you know. And people at the top need to do that, let alone, you know, all the way down the bottom. So that's the scary thing. Well, hopefully people do. That's, fingers crossed. Anyways.
Well, again, I just keep coming back to shut the fuck up. You know, if you've got nothing to say, shut the fuck up. And in this sort of climate right now, everyone has a voice right now, you know, thanks to social media and whatnot. And I think that's fantastic, because, you know, John Stuart Mill, Liberty, every angle has to be covered if you're going to get to the crux of the issue. And you have to hear every side of a story. You have to be able to put it aside as well. You have to be able to discern what's shit and what's not.
Yeah.
But everyone's got a voice right now, and I just think that maybe a smart thing for especially white people right now to do would be to listen rather than speak, and learn rather than preach, and practice a bit of humility, and try to put yourself in the shoes of people who are infinitely worse off than you in ways that you can never imagine.
Yeah.
It without that sort of empathy, I don't think we'll ever really understand. You know, I think we just have to just shut up and listen.
Yeah, very well said, man. Very well said. And it's amazing that, and I think as well, right now, when there's people in the world who actually think, oh, racism is come and gone. You know, that's a thing of the past. When, you know, I don't know anyone, you know, who's black, who's hasn't experienced racism, and that says a lot. I've never met anyone who said, no, I've never experienced racism.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the case.
No.
That shouldn't exist.
Well, look, hopefully there's wheels in motion right now that will help to better the situation.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't have any answers. I just want to express my support for people of color, and I just want to tell them that I would like to do my best to understand how they feel, and I'd like to live in a world where they don't have to feel the way they do right now.
There's never been a better time for a revolution, that's for sure.
Do it. Fuck the government.
Yeah.
All of them.
It's actually funny saying fuck the government. That's a good segue into the song I chose.
It's called that, is it?
No. But yeah, I want to play a song that I haven't released. I wrote it 2017, I think it was, December 2017. And it was right after I'd hurt my neck. And when I hurt my neck, I sort of didn't write for a while. And then this was sort of the very first song I'd written. So it sort of reflects a lot of that emotions of the time. But it's a fictional story. But yeah, I'll play it and then we can have a chat about it maybe. But yeah, it's called The Hanging Tree.
Let's do it.
If a hanging tree crashes on the ground, doesn't mean I'm going down. If the king watches on in distress, does that make me equal or a hindrance at best? Sweet Melinda, you stroke my hair, and asked if I'm still in there. My soul was battered like a bird in a cage, with eyes fixated on the flame. The king asked, with a helmet of brass and a fistful of sand, if I'd be okay in the end, or if I died an ordinary man. Melinda shrugged and stood and said he should, but it ain't no good to pretend, so go on and love him like a father should. I was sent to the infirmary to heal. I was lone, I would go in and out of consciousness every day. Dr. Quinn, the medicine woman, visited every now and again. She filled me with drugs, but the pain remained. And after a few weeks, I could write again. I kept a journal called The Pad in the Pen, and how I met my bitter end. Melinda would visit sometimes, but she turned cold as ice for the king. Oh, the king. The king had gotten to her. And like a moth, I was taken by the flame. They say don't chase the light if you wanna live. But babe, I'm ready to die. And if you try to walk the miracle mile, I'd do it for you. Bloody and wild with faith in the truth. That light heals the wounds. Melinda nodded her head and wished I was dead, for the king only cared for the throne. She cut my ties and let me go. Said I ought to know. If I were to return to a castle bold, look for the girl he loved as a child. They held hands as she smiled. Then he left in the dark of night. Yeah, and that's the song.
Crowd goes wild, pal.
Yeah,
That's another beautiful one from you, George.
thanks,
I've always felt that your music was somewhere in a cross section of, say, Dylan, Neil Young, Bright Eyes, Ryan Adams, something around those lines, and that's a beautiful one, man.
Ah, cheers, man. I'll certainly take those compliments.
Mm.
Yeah, no, it's a weird. It's funny because it was very much like that song was very therapeutic to write, especially being like bedridden at the time, and yeah, you know, just the story. The story's a bit random, like, but you know, as you said, there are no rules, and when you write, you just let your consciousness do the work.
That's it.
Came up with a weird story about a king's son being hanged, but the branch breaks and he gets a second chance. Does he save his son? Does he not? But then the son eventually survives and
Who's
escapes.
Melinda?
That's sort of the character is sort of the love interest of the son, works with the king, that sort of thing, and she's sort of the middleman. She's between both worlds. Does she help him? Does she follow the king? She pleads to the king, doesn't work because the king's bound by duty, and the son did something wrong. Who knows what? I don't.
It sounds almost a little Shakespearean, man. Have you read King Lear?
No, that's actually a Shakespeare one I hadn't read.
With the Melinda, she's almost a Cordelia type.
Yeah, well, I do. I used to be really into Shakespeare. I haven't
Used
really...
to be. Got over it. Not that good anymore.
Nah, he's the man. I mean, you know, you go through phases where you binge read. But Shakespeare,
Yeah,
especially in high school, because I had to do a lot of Shakespeare stuff and like in drama, so that was the
yeah,
first real exposure. And man, he's a good writer. He really just he knows how to capture magic. That's for sure.
yeah. Look, I put him pretty much at the top of the tree. I reserve the word genius for very few people,
Mm.
and I call him a genius, along with Einstein, Beethoven, handful of others. Um, the word genius gets thrown around a lot these days.
So does that saying.
Nice work. That was lovely, man. Thanks
Thanks,
for
man.
playing that.
Pleasure. But yeah, I mean, like with songwriting. So I suppose looking at your writing and when you write a personal song, like how I suppose like how does writing a personal song for you does it differ? Like writing a personal song and writing like a fictional song, and then I suppose after writing it, when you're playing it, is the feeling the same? Is it different?
Look, I got to tell you, I could probably count the fiction like purely. Well, actually, no. I'll have to say I've never written a purely fictional song. Um, there's some songs where I've sat down and I've tried to write a character song where I'm talking about characters living their
Mm.
lives in a certain way, going through difficulties, whatnot. But there's so much of my own life and my own psyche, my own experience that is injected into those songs.
Mm.
I really can't call anything that I've ever written fiction, to be
Mm.
honest.
Well, that's a really
It's
good
more,
way of looking at it, actually. Like how
yeah,
everything has got to come through your mind from something, and yeah, no, it's actually a really interesting way of looking at it.
it's more
Because
just the it's more just the angle. It's
yeah,
like, how do I want to start this song? Do I want to do it in the first person? Do I want to talk about characters? Do I want to do it in the past, in the present, in the future?
mm.
And most of the time, you're not thinking about these things before you write or even as you write, but you think about them afterwards. You think
Yeah,
about, Jesus, where did that song come from?
mm.
And you you realize how deep you can go sometimes, or
Mm.
sometimes how fucking shallow you are too. Like I've I've written hundreds of songs that I'd thrown straight in the bin
Mm.
because they don't speak to me. They don't. Uh, they're not what I wanted to say. It's not right.
Mm.
And of course, there's no rules, but there is a judge, and the judge is the artist. I think
Mm.
it's not the critic, it's not the audience, but the artist gets to figure out what they say and when they say it, and that's it.
Yeah,
That's the only rule.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, like it's funny with songs like throwing them away. Like I sometimes I like to go through my really old songs just to sort of see like because sometimes like I'll dig a good one out that I forgot that I'd written.
Mm.
Like that's how I started playing Birdman again. I wrote it and I was like, chucked it. And then I needed one more song for the EP, so I was going through my old songs. I was like, oh, Birdman, that's all right. I'll chuck that in.
Uh,
And now it's
uh,
one of my favorite songs to play. But it's funny, like, and I think as well, like as you get older, I think it changes your perspective on them as well. Some songs that I used to like, think were great, I'm not a big fan of, and then there'll be songs that I just parked because I wasn't resonating with it that speak to me
yeah,
much more as I'm older than they did when I was 21, dumb, and writing songs that I writing about emotions that I thought were real or things that I felt right at the time. But there's a great
yeah.
saying
Well,
by
they certainly were real at the time. I had no
yeah.
doubt.
Oh, but
But that's
sometimes as well. Sometimes it's just your perception, you know. There's a great saying that I always go back to, and it's the more you know, the more you don't. And I think that's for me. I feel like that is the ultimate truth, and that the more you learn in life, the more you realize there's just so much left to learn.
that's right.
And for me, like I know, you know, when you're younger, you think, you know, I'm learning, I'm, you know, I feel smart. Oh yeah, and then you get a bit older, and the more you know, the more you realize, wait, I know two things out of a billion. It's a
Pretty
good
much
two
it.
things I know, but yeah, you just don't know shit. And I think that's why collaborating and being, I suppose actually forget about collaborating, letting artists be artists and sharing their stories and their visions and, everything, giving the arts a platform is just so important because when you're younger, realistically outside of school and say your parents, the thing that teaches people emotion is music and it's movies and it's
Mm,
books.
mm,
Um,
mm,
I imagine my life growing up without music, and it's just pure darkness, And so many
mm.
movies, like
Absolutely. Yeah.
without having something to relate to that's not a human, just like hearing like a song and thinking, shit, someone else has felt that. That's
Mm,
that's why everyone. That's why so many musicians get into music in the first place because they felt that, and then they just
yeah.
want to they want to replicate it. They want to put their
Yeah.
experiences out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like a big library of human experience that we're
yeah,
contributing to, you know?
yeah, definitely.
And it's there for every other human who comes along.
Mm,
Um, well, until, we obliterate ourselves. But it's there for as long as humans are there for them to connect with. And yeah, like you said, my life without music is very, very bleak.
mm,
And I guess I shouldn't just say music, but also books, movies, art. Like
yeah,
connecting with human experience and knowing that you're not the only fucking freak in the world
yeah.
is
Preach.
extremely important. All Not just for young kids growing up, but for so many stages in your life. I'm only, well, I hope halfway through my life. Um, but you know, I've never stopped growing. I always hoped I remember when I was 15 and I was really experiencing my depression for the first time and understanding what it was. And I always thought, well, I'll grow up one day, I'll get over it, and I'll be happy, and I'll be rich and handsome and healthy and all this shit. And well, it doesn't happen like that. You just have to keep growing and keep struggling and keep finding new ways to
Mm,
wake up in the morning and be purposeful.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it's. Do you if I'm allowed to ask, like with like going through depression, do
Hmm.
you write about it in your songs? Do you really delve deep into that
Eh,
sort of psyche?
I would say almost every song is driven by my depression. Almost every song.
How do you mean?
It's almost a counterattack to my depression. Every time I pick up my guitar, it's saying, fuck you, I can still do shit. I can still serve my purpose here.
Yeah.
And when the words start flowing, it's not necessarily woe is me, blah blah blah. But I find it pretty difficult to write faithfully and truly, um, and to express myself in that way without acknowledging the fact that it's a struggle.
Mm.
And so, almost every song I'd say has some link to my depression. Um, so to me, it's extremely important that I keep writing songs and creating music and making records, um, because it's a vital part of the fight for
Yeah,
survival.
definitely is. Well, I suppose it's probably a good time for another song on that note. What would you?
Please,
Uh, you're up, mate.
I'm up. Oh god! All right.
Take turns, you know.
All right. Well, talking about that sort of stuff, I'm gonna sing a song of mine. Um, that I wrote when I was living in Nashville. It was hills and valleys over there. You know, it was a bit of a roller coaster. I had a fantastic time and I had a terrible time. That's life. But I wrote this song when I was particularly down, and I was staying at a hostel where there was a copy of the Bible that had been left behind by some travelers, and I was reading the book of Revelations, and I'd also been reading about Greek mythology and all sorts of bullshit. Anyway, I'm a nerd. You should see all the books around me right now. This song is called "End of Days," and it's about my depression. It's directly speaking to my depression, as if it were an entity. And I can very comfortably now say that, you know, depression is a part of me. I live with it every day. I know there's still a stigma around mental health. I think that's created by people who don't understand mental health and have not experienced, or who think they have not experienced, a dip in their mental health. So I just want to encourage everybody to be very open and honest with themselves about how they're feeling, and if they feel that they need some help understanding what's happening in their minds, well, seek that help. There is absolutely no shame in that whatsoever. It doesn't matter who you are or who you think you are. We all need some help sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
This song's called "End of Days," and this is a song to my little black dog. The visage of a snake. Every time I close my eyes, the endless allegations, the threat of my demise, they rise like smoking cinders and voices through the haze whisper, I am with you always, even to the end of days. The beast is always raging, merciless and bold. The prince is casting madness over girls that are growing old. The light is disappearing between the sacred and profane, the godly and the gutter, the profound and the insane. And the beast before he makes his chase throughout the darkened maze whispers, I am with you always, even to the end of days. Cast a spell, and she doesn't let me think hell. The good in me is terrified, and evil sings and prays, singing, I am with you always. Even to the end of days, to the end of days, to the end of days, oh, yeah. To the end of days.
That was fantastic, man.
Thank you, sir.
Man, what a tune. Which album is that off again?
That's off Revelations, that one.
Man.
Four-ish years ago now.
Yeah. Is that the one with Memphis on it?
The Mississippi.
Oh, sorry, the Mississippi. I got the wrong American location. Man.
Wrong landmark, dude.
That
right
song,
letter.
Man, that's such a good album. You can definitely feel the America dripping out of it. That's for sure. Did you write those songs, like most of those songs, in America, or?
I wrote most of them in the States, yeah. And I mean, even if they were written back here, it was about by and large, about my American experience. But more than that, it was very much about facing my mental struggle head on and putting it in song. You know, there's one song on there called Keno, and I call it that because I wrote it on the back of a Keno card in the pub.
Oh yeah.
And I could only write the first two verses on the Keno card because, you know, it's a Keno card. There's only so much space on it. And as I was coming to the end of the card, I even put it in the words. I said, the Keno card is almost full. The words are drying up.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, so, yeah, it's not all American, but even that song, that was written in a pub down in Wynnum, down the road from my studio, and I was just having a terrible time at the time, and that was a very important album for me to get a lot off my chest, and I feel like the one after that, Cosmos, with my band, was only able to be created because I had the previous album's experience and catharsis.
Yeah, for me it definitely felt like that, like going from Revelations to Cosmos. It was Revelations felt just so personal, and then Cosmos just felt like such an adventure. Like in that, as I said in that review I wrote for it, it was just a wild ride through mythology, and mate, it was great. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I threw everything at the wall with that one. You know, they say you should throw it all at the wall and see what sticks. And with that one, I sort of threw everything at the wall and everything stuck. You know.
That's a sticky wall.
Yeah, don't want to be up against that one.
Yeah. Yeah. The next.
Would you like to share a song with us, my friend?
I would. Yeah, I was sort of thinking earlier what song I should play to follow up the last one, and I thought I'd stick in that same sort of time, like after hurting my neck. So a lot of after I hurt it, I had to go to the doctors like 3 days a week, generally speaking, not including physio.
How did you hurt it, man?
Oh, that's a story for another day, but it was just an unlucky accident, in all honesty.
Do you remember it though?
Yeah.
I've lost the feeling in these two fingers pretty much, and what I hate about that is that I can't remember how it happened.
Wow. Just all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, what's going on?
Yeah, it's like
crap.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll just learn guitar again. That's all good. But no, sorry, man. I didn't want to hijack you there.
No, that's all good.
You've hurt your neck. You've hurt your neck, but you won't tell us how.
It was just a dumb, unfortunate accident. But
Yeah.
which is funny how something just so, when it happened, like I didn't know, like I was fine for the first day. I didn't know anything was wrong.
Mm.
But something so simple can just change your life. It's crazy. But
It is, man.
yeah. So I was going to the doctors a lot, and I was going through like some really bad anxiety at the time, and yeah, I wrote this song called Doctor, which is about going through all that time and the constant trips to the doctors and more so the mental state of having to do that, and just
Yeah.
basically I wanted to paint a picture of what I was feeling, and like when you think of like musical timbre and you think of like the colors that you see when you play a song. This song for me is just like a dark red and black, and every time when I was writing it, it was just with timbre in mind. How can I paint this picture? And those are the only two colors used.
Is that a bit of synesthesia there? Do you think, man, or is that more of just like an inner vision? You know, synesthesia is basically it's a neurological psychological condition where you are able to. It's like your senses are all sort of scrambled, and so you will hear colors or you will see music as colors,
Oh,
or are you talking more about just like a vision in your mind? You saw this sort of
yeah,
dark
it's probably
red,
more just a
black.
vision. Yeah, I suppose like I think when I was in high school learning about musical timbre in general, I always
Yeah,
just like to look at music and try to. It's funny. I try to hear the colors, as well as hearing the song, because the colors for me
yeah,
they represent the emotion in the song, like what's being brought
yeah.
out of that song, and the colors could be different for everybody, but for me, yeah, I don't know. That's just something I've always really done, but I don't normally use it as a way of writing. This song was sort of the first time I wanted to get this portrait out, and
Awesome, man.
yeah,
Awesome.
it's Doctor.
Hit me, baby. One more time.
Doctor, won't you help me? My feet can barely stand. My eyes have become empty, like a ghost ship in the sand. My hands can't build a life, one that's worth to live. My heart can't sing a good song, a mere minor fifth. My woman bears the brunt, like a bull drawn to red. Sometimes love ain't enough, even when it's the last thing left. So doctor, won't you help me? I'm laying in my bed. There's a priest whispering some words that a wise man once said. Will there be a life somewhere in a tunnel, ethereal and sheen? Will there be someone there waiting for me, or is purgatory empty? La da 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 da, la da da da, la da da la da da, la da 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 da, la da da da. Doctor, won't you help me? God wants to see my soul, but I left it with my darling to keep forevermore. La da 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 la da da la da da la da la da da la da da. Yeah, that's the song.
Yeah, man. I forgot the cross section on your music should include Leonard Cohen, as is very prevalent in that song. That was a beauty, mate. That was dark.
Thanks, man. It's funny. Like when I wrote that, it's funny how like sometimes other influences can shape you in a way. But when I wrote that, I don't think I had really listened to too much Leonard Cohen. I mainly got into him in the last year and a bit. So it was like
had you listened to people who had been influenced by him, like say Nick Cave or Elliott Smith, or
pretty much everyone influenced by Leonard Cohen.
Right,
even
right.
But I mean, everyone, even Dylan's influenced by Cohen. He's just the ultimate. Him and like literally, him and Dylan. They're like the top of the tree, and then it just stems down. Obviously, they've got inspirations too.
You know what Allen Ginsberg said, man. He said, Dylan came along and blew everyone's mind except Leonard's.
I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, Leonard was already there. He just wasn't in the scene yet,
Yeah.
Have you read his novel, The Beautiful Losers?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, that came out in 64 or 65 or something like that. So that was before his first record. But, Cohen was putting poetry out in the early 60s when Dylan was still singing Woody Guthrie covers,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a book of Leonard's poetry here. So I've got a couple,
his
actually.
His poetry is amazing. His writing, it's funny, like when you look at writers, there's very few who just have such a distinct writing style that just is so powerful and unique. And like for me, it's just like the three for me, like the top three for me are definitely like Bob, Leonard, and Nick Cave. They're my three. But, I mean, I know
for me, I'd have to agree with your first two, and I think for me, if we're talking music, not poets, I think I'd almost have to put Joni Mitchell in there.
Yeah, that's a good point. She's
as my third.
There's a lot of good songwriters. That's the thing, man. When you're talking like the top three, you're like, oh yeah, but then you're like, wait, but there's so many good ones.
I need more than three.
Yeah,
check this out for a sec. Wait. This is the book I got. Leonard Cohen. It's his it's called Stranger Music, Selected Poems and Songs.
And look how thick it is. Wonderful.
It's just massive, man. It goes on and on and on and on and on, but maybe I could read a Leonard Cohen poem as a parting gift.
I definitely like that.
There's always lyrics in here too, and I think some of his most beautiful lyrics can certainly be seen as poetry in their own right.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Well, lyric for me, and that's why I think, and I think Dylan winning the Nobel Prize really is like, it's the final straw in a way of lyrics and poetry basically being one and the same. And I know there's like poets who won't agree, and it seems like that's mainly an issue with the poets of the world. But really, they're the same. They're just different leaves of the same tree,
That's it, man. It's all artistic expression of the human condition.
Exactly.
I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read a song slash poem by Leonard Cohen, which I think is very pertinent right now. It won't take me more than a couple of minutes. Don't worry, everybody out there. And if you're bored, you can just fucking turn us off. I don't give a shit. Anyway, if you want to hear some real truth bombs, have a listen right now. Democracy is coming through a hole in the air from those nights in Tiananmen Square. It's coming from the field, but it ain't exactly real. Or it's real, but it ain't exactly there. From the wars against disorder, from the sirens night and day, from the fires of a homeless, from the ashes of a gay, democracy is coming to the USA. It's coming through a crack in the wall on a visionary flood of alcohol. From the staggering account of the Sermon on the Mount, which I don't pretend to understand at all. It's coming from the silence on the dock of the bay, from the brave, the bold, the battered, the heart of Chevrolet. Democracy is coming to the USA. It's coming from the sorrow on the street, from the holy places where the races meet, from the homicidal bitching that goes down in every kitchen to determine who will serve and who will eat, from the wells of disappointment where the women kneel to pray, for the grace of God in the desert here and the desert far away. Democracy is coming to the USA. It's coming to America first, the cradle of the best of the worst. It's here they got the range and the machinery for change, and it's here they got the spiritual thirst. It's here the family's broken, and it's here the lonely say that the heart has got to open in a fundamental way. Democracy is coming, baby, to the USA. It's coming from the women and the men. Oh, baby, we'll be making love again. We'll be going down so deep, the river's gonna weep, and the mountain's gonna shout, amen. It's coming like the tidal flood beneath the lunar sway, imperial, mysterious, in amorous array. Democracy is coming to the USA. I'm sentimental, if you know what I mean. I love the country, but I can't stand the scene. And I'm neither left or right. I'm just staying home tonight, getting lost in that hopeless little screen. And I'm stubborn as those garbage bags that time cannot decay. I'm junk, but I'm still holding up this little wild bouquet. Democracy is coming to the USA.
How does someone write that? Like, genuinely, how does someone write so well?
I read this interview with him where he said that he had to pick the 10 best verses because the song was too long, but he had 70 verses that he wrote.
That's unfair.
Right?
Can I just say, Byron, I would love to hear you record an audiobook. I feel like you would be the perfect person to narrate an audiobook. And
what book?
I guarantee the people watching feel the same.
Which book would you pick?
You should just record. You know what you should do? A video series on like Instagram or something every day. A new song, a new poem or song out of that book. Go start to finish.
Leonard Cohen.
Do it.
I wouldn't mind doing To Kill a Mockingbird right now. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Harper Lee.
Yeah.
I think I could do Atticus Finch's voice very well.
Oh, mate.
The pride.
Man, I just want to say, thank you again for coming on tonight. I can't wait till we can actually catch up in person. I feel like we were so close to hanging out, and then the world took a break, and here we
Right?
are talking on a computer screen, live streaming it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, man. Oh,
yeah,
look, at least it happened, man, and I'm glad it happened where people could listen in. I hope everyone listening in has found some sort of interest in what the hell we're saying, or whatever. But thanks for tuning in, everybody.
yeah.
Those who have.
Thank you so much. And just I suppose as well, I just wanted to finish just touching back on mental health and the struggles and battles that everyone goes through in their life. As Byron was saying, it's important to look at getting help if you need it, and there's no shame in that. And if any musicians are watching, so I'm not sure if you saw at the start, but there's Stories from House Arrest shirts that are now on sale. 50% of the money is going to Listen Up Music, who are a music charity that work in mental health, supporting musicians. And it's an organisation I've been involved with for a few years. And the work they do to break the stigma of mental health in the industry is amazing. And if you've got time, I would definitely recommend everybody checking it out, because the work they do is just fantastic. If you want to learn a bit more about them, jump on, send me a message, or if anybody after hearing us talk and sing some dark tunes, just reach out if you need a chat or anything like that. But yeah, Byron, thanks again for coming on. It's going to be hard.
You're
to
so
top this
welcome,
one
man.
mate.
No,
You're a wealth of energy and wealth of wisdom. So I'm very grateful to have you on, mate.
thank you very much, George. It's been a pleasure, man. And yeah, look, everyone, go and check out that Listen Out Music. Grab a shirt. 50% of the profits go to a great cause. You can also donate direct to Beyond Blue. There's so many things you can do, but just if you are a sufferer, look, get help, man. Get help. I did, and it saved my fucking life. If you just save your life, do it. Save your life.
Yeah. Well, thanks again.
Anyway, George, thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure, and I've loved hearing your songs and having a chat. And let's grab a face-to-face beer when we get the chance, brother.
Mate, you can count on it. Can't wait. Have a great
All
night,
right, dog.
everybody.